What's up? I'm Jake Codeweiss with Musician on a Mission. In this video, we're talking about vocal chain order. I'm going to teach you how to order the plugins in your vocal mixing chain to get a nice, consistent vocal sound that sits well in the mix. And make sure to stick around to the end of the video because, as usual, I've got a free bonus for you. So here's what we're going to cover today. First, the plugin order for a basic vocal chain. Then I'm going to share with you a few advanced vocal chain tips and techniques. Let's dive in with plugin order for a basic vocal chain. Number one, cut unwanted frequencies. This means using subtractive EQ to address things like unnecessary low end and frequency buildup as needed. Now you want to do this first so that you can feed all your other plugins a signal with only the frequencies you actually want them to process. For example, here's what subtractive EQ might look like. I filtered out unnecessary low end at about 100 Hertz, and for this particular vocal, that's all I felt it needed. But your vocal may be different. Maybe there's low mid buildup in the 200 range you want to cut, or resonant frequencies you need to address. Every vocal recording is unique and will require its own approach. The point is, you want to address these things first in the chain. Next, it's time to address dynamics. This means using dynamics processing like compression to make the vocal more consistent in order to prevent any sudden spikes in volume and to make the quieter parts of the vocal louder so you can hear every lyric clearly in the mix. For example, I'm using two different compressors on this vocal and each one is doing a different job. The first is taming just the loudest parts of the signal, and the second is creating overall consistency. So you'll notice that the gain reduction meter on the first compressor only moves during the peaks or the loudest parts of the vocal.
I'm the bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type.
And the second compressor is constantly active, just squeezing the dynamic range of the vocal and making it a bit more consistent.
I'm the bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type.
When you have multiple compressors in line like this, it's called serial compression, and it's a pretty common technique when it comes to vocal processing. Next in the chain, you can boost pleasing frequencies. This means using additive EQ to enhance frequencies that might make the vocal a little brighter, fuller, or stand out in the mix a bit more. I found that using additive EQ after compression usually sounds crisper and cleaner than if you use it before compression. Here's an example of some additive EQ I used for this particular vocal.
I'm the bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type. I'm the bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type.
The real key here is being able to analyze and come close to the sound of your reference tracks. It's pretty common to add a little bit of high end to give your vocal that shimmery, expensive kind of sound. You can boost around 200 Hertz to make the vocal a little fuller if it needs it, or maybe around the 5K mark to help it cut through the mix. The point is, rely on your reference tracks to help guide you in this department. Next in the vocal chain is space and depth. At this point, the heavy lifting has been done with tone and dynamics. Now we can start getting creative with some wet effects like reverb and delay. You want to put these kind of effects last in the chain. Otherwise, any kind of EQing or compression is going to have an effect on not just the dry vocal, but the reverb and delay effects as well, and that just turns into a disgusting mess. So as an example, I've got a little bit of delay and a little bit of plate reverb on this vocal. I'm busing my wet effects to a separate aux track and blending it in that way. Let's take a listen.
I'm the bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type. I'm the bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type.
This is a little bit more of a creative area. You can use just reverb or just delay if you want. I like to use a little bit of both. Sometimes I'll even blend multiple delays together. The point is, make sure you put your wet effects last in the chain. And that's plugin order for a basic vocal chain. Now let's talk about a few advanced vocal chain tips and techniques. First, Tame Sibilance. If you find that the sibilants are too harsh, meaning S sounds and T sounds and things like that, try adding a de-esser to the chain after your additive EQ and before your wet effects. Next, volume automate. Even after adding all your plugins, you may still find that some lyrics or consonants are still getting buried in the mix. That's totally normal. You may just have to use some volume automation to help bring certain parts out. What I recommend you do is that instead of using the fader for volume automation, insert a basic gain plugin just before your wet effects and automate the volume with the plugin instead. That way, you can still use the fader for overall static level adjustment if you need to. Next, add character. At this point, you've done all the heavy lifting, but if you want to get a bit more creative with the tone, you can always experiment with things like different compressor types and saturation. Now, this is really starting to dig into the subtleties of mixing. There are countless tools out there, and each one has its own unique character. I'm just going to quickly touch on 3 of my favorites, show you where I would put them in the vocal chain. First, the 1176. This is a compressor with its own unique sound. I like to use it as my first compressor to tame the peaks. Next, the LA2A. Again, this compressor just has a very unique character. It makes things sound nice and smooth. I like to use that as my second compressor for overall constant dynamic control. And finally, the 1073. This is a preamp emulation. Now, I like to put any kind of saturation plugins like this first in the chain. And the reason for that is saturation actually adds frequency content to the signal. And if this creates buildup or harshness anywhere in the vocal, I can take care of it with my subtractive EQ next in the chain. So now that we've got all the pieces in place, let's listen to our vocal before and after processing.
I'm the bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad tight, might seduce your dad type. I'm the bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad tight, might seduce your dad type.
So let's recap. First, we've got our heavy hitters. These are the plugins that do most of the work and will get you about 90% of the way there. In order: subtractive EQ, compression, additive EQ, reverb, and or delay. Then we've got a few extra tools that can be helpful for tweaking the vocal a bit further, maybe give you that last 10%. De-essing directly after additive EQ. Basic gain plugin for volume automation directly before your wet effects. And any kind of saturation should go first in the chain before subtractive EQ. Now, obviously, there's more to mixing vocals than just the order of the plugins, right? You have to know how to use the tools themselves, how this all kind of fits together in context with the rest of the song. So if you want to know the fastest way to make music at a professional level, grow your audience, start making an income with music, join me for a free workshop I put together where I walk you through the 6 transformations you need to go through in order to make music your full-time source of income. It's completely free. Just follow the link in the description. And as always, if you like this video, hit the like button, share it with your friends, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.